Hello, and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, and business from the inside out. And today I'm welcoming to the show from Australia, from Sydney, so close by, Adam Good. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thanks, B. Great to be here.
Thank you. And a bit of a blast from the past as well, right? Like you and I were both back in our advertising era. We worked at the same organization, which is Dentsu. And I think we worked out it was between 2015 and 2018 where we first crossed paths.
That's about right. Yeah.
Years ago, and probably haven't caught up. Well, we haven't touched base since then. And then here we are now in completely different, careers or, and it's quite interesting in terms of 6 degrees of separation. So, yeah, thank you for coming on. And I'm really excited to talk to you today because we're going to do a bit of show and tell, which is the first time we've actually done a bit of show and tell on screen. So really playing around with the different ways this podcast is going. But you're the founder and CEO of Auric Essentials, which is a health tech company. And I'll let you share your story around it. It started off as a side hustle, but it's now become a full-blown, it was a passion and now it's your full-blown business and you've got a number of co-founders and it's very exciting and, real new world, if you ask me, in terms of you're building mood as a service and it's powered by scent intelligence, where you use environmental and olfactory cues, so you can explain more about that, to basically help leaders and teams shift their state. So from, including calm, focus, creativity, and it's on demand. And you're working with a lot of B2B businesses and services. And essentially, you explain this way better, but I'll just keep it really simple. It's a way to down-regulate stress and focus on the moods that are required. But also at times, if you're feeling a bit, it's that up-regulate the nervous system as well. You've worked in advertising previously. I'm going to hand it over to you to share a bit about your journey, and I'll come back to your response to my question when booking in for the pod in a bit.
Yeah. No, well, thanks, B. I think us advertising executives are reinventing ourselves in this world of constant change. Yeah, I mean, Auric was definitely a side project. I was very passionate about how scent was, really triggering sort of upregulation and downregulation with me, especially. I think when we met, I was actually living in Singapore working with
That's
Dentsu.
right.
But my life in the last sort of 20 years, I've always had a journey of wellness and spending a lot of time on wellness retreats, and meditation and yoga is a real passion of mine. And when you go on those experiences, scent is such a visceral part of that experience. And I think we tried to do this podcast when we were in Bali a couple of weeks ago, and it just sort of didn't quite work there. But environments like that, you just have these ancient kind of aromas that really work for you. And I suppose when I used to go back home and kind of tinker around with aromatherapy and use my water diffuser and try some essential oils to sort of kind of create that, I really saw a lot of friction in that process and really wondered why scent wasn't kind of digitized like many of the other senses that we've been working on as in humanity for some time. So in advertising sense, we do a lot of sound and video, but in some ways we're probably over-indexed a little bit in that. So there was just this real passion point of seeing what where we could go with scent. So as a side project, I was working as a chief digital officer, working with clients, of course, but behind the scenes, I was looking at aroma tech and trying to work out how we could really at the end of the day, digitize scent. I mean, I can't actually demonstrate aromas and smell on a podcast, but I might be able to show a couple of little things just to help people
I'd love that.
understand what we mean by digitizing scent. So it's a real passion point, and this problem is that scent is kind of, very much stuck in the past. When we think about it, why is my screen not moving on there? There we go. Because scent is quite primitive in many ways, and also there's a lot of problems with it. It's filled with carcinogenics and solvents, and we sort of introduce it into our homes, and it's actually kind of a bit of a problem. And so what we decided to do was build a product which we call the Auric Aromasphere, and it's our first product that we have where the aromasphere is kind of think about it as a diffuser. It has 8 TGA approved essential oils in the device, and they can be mixed various forms of aromas that are more uplifting or down-regulated. And we talk about them as sort of calm, focus, energy, and sleep. And it's activated by a mobile phone. It connects to your smart home. So you can kind of trigger these environments that use light, music, and aromas. And what's kind of neat about it, so we actually use biometric data as well to help people kind of find when scent should be triggered and whether that is going to be an upregulated experience or a downregulated. So we have some intelligence behind that, and we have some health questionnaires, and that allows the output to deliver, scent at nighttime to be more sleep related, or in the morning it might be something to create some energy or even focus to do some deep work. So that's our product, and we've have a few VCs on our cap table and some sophisticated angels, and we've done some pretty interesting things. We were on the TV show The Block last year. That really drove a lot of sales, and we've had some corporate clients like Telstra that we've been working with to create a signature scent for their retail environments, which we're rolling out to stores, and we're across all the states in Australia at the moment. Yeah, it's certainly been a challenging project, and digitizing scent is a
Yeah.
real heavy lifting experience, but it certainly fits in my passion point. And now we're out looking for places that the aromasphere can be part of. So we've found a lot of real estate footprint, quite interesting, trying to get people into work. So whether we're creating a brainstorming room or a calming environment or even a resting pod, using scent as part of that experience. So yeah.
It's so interesting environment. And I was telling you when we caught up recently, reconnected, like, from a flow, getting into flow state perspective and a flow science perspective, like every environment is everything. And, if you think about in the past where we've just gone to work or, like spent majority of our time and it's just been kind of really stark lighting or that bright fluoro light. And by the end of the day, you've got the full blown migraine or headache. But also from an environment perspective, it's just kind of, there is no aroma whatsoever. And yet our energy levels can change, like, I don't know, there might be a stat behind that, multiple times in a day. And there's times when we need to be absolutely focused and, to get that productivity out of us, but also whether it's strategic or creativity. And so having those spaces where it does, from a neuroscience perspective, that aroma connects to, the brain in terms of, and then automatically switches gears. So it takes us from, whether we're distracted or whatever, into that focus.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that intelligence and how it's connected to how you've digitized that from a wearables perspective, because wearables have been around for quite some time. And there's obviously the HRV piece and understanding energy levels, et cetera, et cetera. How does a wearable connect? Like, how does that all interconnect? I mean, that diagram you showed was great, but like breaking it down even further, I'm really fascinated by that and the science behind it.
Yeah, I think, well, the science on scent is continuously evolving. I mean,
Yeah.
the olfactory system is actually the first sense in our development in the womb that's formed first because it's the most comprehensive. And science, they're still working through, why does certain aromas actually trigger memory or help with cognitive ability or help with, various forms of mood states. In ancient times, I mean, that was just always kind of part of history, and it depends on how far we want to go back in humanity. But humans, I think I still have that, which is big noses. Humans just used to be able to draw in botanics and aromas to help them kind of get through the day. So you didn't even have to eat as much if you actually got your sort of breath work and you got your scent sort of working. Back in the day, we used to use scent to actually determine whether there was times that you to be on high alert because there'd be danger around, or when there's other times that it's all about celebration and ceremony, and those sorts of things. We've looked deep into that type of research, and really in the last 100 years, we've got this industrial revolution that's filled the air with a lot of pollutants. So
Yeah.
we've actually reversed our need for, or thinking that we need, the sense of smell. But when we discovered in COVID, it was actually one of the most damaging parts that happened when you had a really bad case of COVID. You actually started to lose your sense of smell, and that had all sorts of repercussions. And if you didn't get your sense of smell back, you could be really sick for quite a long time. So I think that's just where we're at the moment. There's some homes and environments that you go into, and it's noticeable that they've really decided to put certain sort of aromas in that home, and you know about it, and you say that really smells quite nice. Or sometimes you go to a hospital and there's a smell in the hospital that makes you sort of retreat, and you actually feel quite concerned about that. So that evolution of like what type of scent therapy can actually improve your cognitive and improve your mood is really the journey that we're on. So we're constantly looking for the latest research where people are smelling various different aromas to help with their mood states. And we're taking that on. And to get to your question on biometrics, it's just another input that actually helps us determine when scent should be turned on and scent should be sort of turned off, or even changed to give you a kind of a mood take benefit. So what the aromasphere does is, there's no doubt when you get it, it's kind of a fun product. You're kind of playing around with oils, pressing lots of buttons, but it's like a coffee machine. It's not that helpful to maybe have 10 cups of coffee in the morning. It's more about sort of finding those aromas that will actually help you through the day. And this habitual behavior starts to happen within about 3 weeks. People have set their routines, and the biometrics are adjusting when certain aromas should sort of take place. And then you're more about, what's my intent? Do I want to wake up tomorrow, have a podcast with Adam? I need to be, alert for that type of thing, or is my daily routine going to change where I'm off to a gym, or I'm off to do a walk, or maybe it's all about using scent to help at the end of the day, where you've actually really busted your gut and you've done a lot of work. Your anxiety levels are a little bit heightened. Your heart variability is sort of changing because you're stressed. The aromasphere might play a little calming ritual to sort of say, take 20 minutes out, make yourself a cup of tea, just look after yourself. And so that's what we're using scent to help people in that experience. And yeah, it's certainly a journey when you're doing biometric data, but we are blending that with our machine learning of taking scientific research in scent therapy, taking inputs around biometric and mashing those two together. We call it the Auric Wellness Signature to allow a setup of when your aromas should be sort of playing throughout the day and throughout the week. So yeah, it's a pretty crazy project, but it's certainly got a lot of traction now.
I love it. It's so new world, but it's so required. Like if you think about like all the stats around exhaustion and like the inability to be able to focus because you only have to think about the we're constantly switched on, aren't we? Like you've got your phone with you like generally 24/7, and so then it's that ability to have these scents trigger or invoke an emotion that is sometimes you don't even know when you're, going 100 miles an hour and you need something like that to trigger you to go calm your farm or calm down. Like you need to get more into this calm state. And then once you hit that state, I know I do, it's like,
Yeah.
and you get those fresh perspectives, you get the intuition kicks in. Like it's so many benefits to what you're doing. And but yet it's so new. And so it's really is about proving it out, right? Because you've probably come up against that as part of your own journey, as a co-founder and, this going from a side hustle into a fully blown business. But are you seeing, and when you, for example, you're obviously, co-created with the Telstra stores, are they noticeably seeing a difference in themselves? You've said there's a 21-day, kind of habit that comes on. What from a business perspective and, in a business or with leaders, what are you seeing that they're noticing about themselves or as a collective?
Yeah, look, I mean, Telstra is an organization that I've spent as an executive, like 4 years of my life in Telstra Media building, which is similar to Auric in one sense of this hardware recurring business model. In those days, we were building streaming television and getting people to choose, download, own movies or video. When I went to Telstra, I showed them the product, and there were some really interesting executives who are like, we're constantly trying to look at our retail footprint. How does various forms of video, music, lighting experiences affect our customers when they're researching products, or they maybe got some challenges in regards to their current account. They really wanted to start to look at where scent could play a bit of a role. So we actually went through quite a rigorous uh, lab testing to find what aromas were working for people as they entered the store, which ones made them spend a little bit more time in some dwell times or made them feel sort of relaxed. And focus was a real big part of that. So it was quite a long project, but now we're rolled out to, we've got 5 stores up and running across Australia, and we're moving to roll out another 5 stores in the next sort of 30 days. And so the early statistics scent is just part of those new store refurbs. So they have the data in regards to transaction counts and net promoter scores and some of those really key metrics that they have. And so scent is part of that. We certainly can't narrow down directly on how their signature scent would impact maybe sales or impact customers' calmness or dwell time in the store. But I think over time we'll probably see some of that data start emerging. I mean, they're a very sophisticated brand team and retail team in Telstra. They're always open to these type of things. But early days, the staff absolutely love it. And early days as the customers are coming in and making comments as they're spending time in these sort of scent domes, which is quite interesting. Scent is obviously used a lot in hotels. I mean, you can walk
Yeah.
into the Westin, or you can maybe walk into the Hyatt, and they'll have these signature scent. There's some signature scent starting in retail footprints, but it's still reasonably new. We're trying to break into lots of different areas of space, especially corporate spaces, and bringing people back to work or creating environments around brainstorming sessions or focus pods. And so there's a lot of organizations that we're trialing Auric with. And that's really where we are at the moment to see where our product market fit can work. No doubt in yoga studios and sound healing, using aromas, but in the home environment, it's all about the living room, the bedroom, the home office. They're tending to be the places that the aromasphere is doing quite well.
Yeah, you're gonna laugh at me, but like a couple of years ago, obviously I've studied flow science and neuroscience, and learned all around how to get into flow from an environmental perspective. And I saw one of your little oils was lavender, and I brought these lavender candles to this workshop that I was running this particular day, and I had the binaural beats going. It was to get everyone being creative or focused. I can't remember exactly. So there I was with this candle trying to get the aromas going, like very old school. And someone's like, P, you cannot have like candles in an office. You're going to catch something on fire. But it's
Yeah.
like, it is very new, and it's very new science in terms of, like you say, from a brain health perspective and cognitive. And there's so much, like you talked around HRV earlier, and there's so much we know about the heart, but there's so much we're still learning about the brain. And so this is for me why it's so exciting what you're doing, because in particular in corporate space and reshaping what it looks like from a workspace and what it means to go into work, but also like you called out the deep work, etc. It's that ability to leverage our scents and our smells, for example, to be able to then be more productive, be more creative, have more learning and memory, acquire skills faster.
Yeah.
And when we're in that flow state, things become quite effortless versus efforting. And so what you're doing is you're almost creating the triggers to be able to then get into flow when required, but also like actively recover is what I call it, in terms of that, downtime, sleeping. Like it's a whole cycle. Like if you know like about the flow cycle, there's a whole cycle around what you're creating here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing a test at the moment with teenage kids that need to go to study groups and so forth. And if you think about a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old, wanting to prepare themselves for year 12 and studying, their whole life is actually kind of known about being connected to phones. And you're seeing this demographic that's like, if anything, I wish I could stop doing that a little bit. So when they go into these study groups, they have to kind of hand in their phones. But we're starting to go, let's start putting aromas in the room
Yeah.
while the study group is happening. And then you have the experiments where they'll turn up a couple of days later and we don't have the scent, and we're waiting for them to ask for it. And so there is this opportunity really where scent can be trying to get people off the screens. I mean, as a chief digital officer and an ex ad guy, I mean, we've been interrupting people and wanting them to consume content for some time, and here we are building a product that we actually want to get off the screen quite a bit. I mean, we love how Auric, you just move into a room and you start to realize, well, that's my focus ritual that's playing right now. And there's an adjustment in your mind. Let's just take 3 deep breaths and I'll move towards this focus rather than a screen or an alert or a pop-up telling you it's now time to do something different. So yeah, there's plenty of organizations exploring this. Developers, programmers, they really like to be in an environment where there's scent being playing. We've seen athletes that are using scent to get them into the right focus before for competing. Musicians. So yeah, I mean, it's what's really quite interesting about oil. We've gone to the trouble to get our oils registered with the TGA for their therapeutic benefits. So we're doing that for a couple of different reasons, to make sure that that lavender bottle is 100% botanical.
Yeah.
So when you insert that bottle into the aromasphere, it will say this is a TGA approved lavender bottle. It'll even have, where the lavender was grown, so the full carbon footprint of where that plant was. But you kind of know that you're getting something that is okay for your body to breathe in, and which is really important. I love there's scented candles, but there's some really dodgy ones out there that you're burning, kind of basically burning carcinogenics into
Yeah.
your room. So yeah, we do compete against the candle, but we're trying to get rid of that sort of friction of having aromas more often. Like, I
Yeah.
think if we could activate all of the water diffusers that are sitting in people's cupboards right now, it's probably around about a $5 billion business, because people are familiar with it, but it's just too much friction. I got to get it out. I got to plug it in. I got to put my water. I got to go find some oils. I'm not quite sure which ones to use and blend for various different occasions. We've just taken all of that friction
Right.
out, and we think there's a real journey of the community to find what are some of the blends and oils that people are trialing and using for various different mood states. So I mean, flow state, I'm really passionate about working with leaders that have that sort of calming nature as they're working with you, rather than somebody that feels a bit of anxious and anxiety. So, that's always worked for me as someone in a team structure. And I think aromas are going to help with that sort of environment. When you walk in, you kind of notice it and, feel a different experience.
And you know what I wrote down? You're creating like a new flow trigger, almost like in terms
Yeah.
it's a trigger
Yeah.
to get into these. Like there's obviously the flow triggers for an individual. There's a flow triggers, group flow triggers, and it's almost like there's business flow triggers. I've got an idea around that myself, but it's fascinating, isn't it? What you're talking about here, this ability to use sense and what you're doing. Love it, and I think we need more and more of it, because the world isn't going to get any slower. It's getting faster and faster by the second.
Oh my God. Yeah, it sure is. Yeah.
And so the ability, but I want to just talk a little bit quickly, and you've talked a lot about it, but when you built in for the pod and I asked you what's one unique insight or lived experience when it comes to life, leadership and or business, you've talked a lot about it, but I do like, and I bolded it, you said people don't respond to strategy first, they respond to the emotional state of the leader. You just touched on it then. And you said, I learned in high pressure environments like film sets, live television, and later in advertising, when preparation matters, but things inevitably change. In moments of pressure, I saw that when leaders were stressed, reactive, or overly rigid, judgment suffered and performance degraded. When
Mm.
leaders were calm, clear, in intent, and emotionally steady, teams adapted quickly and made better decisions in real time. What became clear to me is that regulation is practical. not abstract. It could be as simple as taking a pause, slowing your pace slightly, being mindful of your tone and staying fully present. And when leaders do this, they create the conditions for trust, adaptability, and flow.
Yeah.
You said the takeaway is simple but powerful. Before trying to fix the plan or the people, regulate your own state. I mean, it's so fundamental, isn't it? And I'd love for you just to talk a bit more about that, because for me, it's almost like that we go to the external to fix things, like you're just talking about, but yet we need to come back to fixing the internal, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, leadership's I think leadership in the creative industries is, I've been very, very, very lucky to work with some pretty interesting people across my time as in film and television, whether it was Baz Luhrmann or whether it was certain creative forces when it came to live television production or, in advertising. I mean, that, people that are very passionate about creativity and engaging with a group to kind of get an output. I've sort of been blessed to have all sorts of different styles of leaders, and I've also spent a lot of time in other markets. So, it's a different kind of creative process in Japan over it is in China, over it is in Australia, or over it is in the US. But one of the key themes that just works for me is the individual being a little bit more calm in their nature, being able to have those pauses, being able to give some clarity that they just appear to have their nervous system in order, rather than kind of lose it in a moment when they really should be probably bringing people towards them rather than sort of pushing them away. And I've seen some pretty high pressure situations where really big ideas have just kind of been lost in the not born correctly, or just lost because the temperament of the leader just sort of destroyed the output before it was kind of created. So, I'm really, really passionate about that. I mean, all styles of leadership can work. You can be an absolute asshole and still be successful. I've seen that model work, but generally when it comes to creativity, you need to have a lot more of understanding about flow state, a lot more understanding about your own breath work and the ability to sort of pause and recalibrate and adjust accordingly. So, I mean, yeah, it's interesting when I've watched your flow podcast and the guests that you've got on that, and I'm hoping we're going to have a renaissance of the importance of that muscle strength, also than it being less important.
Well, I think it's people like you, it's people like myself, it's people that are really focused on this new world, if you like.
Mm,
It is required. We need that presence and we need that purpose. And don't get me wrong, we absolutely still need performance.
mm.
But how do we tap into that so that we can be more present and have that, be more purposeful and conscious and aware of, like aware of everything around us, but also us as who we are. Tell us a little bit about, you've got quite a few you've got a co-founder, but you've got quite a big team in terms
Yeah.
of, obviously what you're doing. Do you guys use the essentials, the Auric like, do you use them as well, the aromas, for how you guys work as a collective? How do you use it into, like, within your own company?
Yeah, the company's really small as in my co-founder Alex Kutri and I are the co-founders. So we are the 100% committed individuals on the company. Alex um, is a robotics engineer by trade. He's quite a bit younger than me. He's 30, and his experience in understanding hardware and firmware and software and that sort of product layer is second to none. And I was so blessed to meet him a couple of years ago to go on this journey. So was formerly from Melbourne and is now in Brisbane. So we do work remotely, but of course the Aromosphere is kind of ticking on as we work in this environment. We actually lived and worked together in the US last year for about 4 or 5 months. So we have had the experience of having scent in our kind of home environments and then taking it into Austin, Texas, and building a kind of an interesting office space. But the team structure, they're all over the world. And I've sort of
Amazing.
been lucky to, as a chief digital officer and project manager, you kind of know where to find the best people for the
Yeah.
best project. So, Eric Aldrin is product strategy ex Meta Glasses, probably one of the best AI content makers at the moment out of San Francisco is product strategy. Maddie Beard is ex Notion, Adobe does all our UX design. She lives in Colorado. We've
I
got a
love it.
programmer developer that's in Ireland, data engineering and data science done out of the Ukraine. And those guys, oh my God, they're in war most of the time where their internet is coming and going. And the resilience that data engineering team over the times that we've been working with them in the last 2 or 3 years has been second to none. Some industrial design is done out of here, out of Sydney. And we've got our essential oils and chemist group out of Melbourne. So they're all in this new world of fractional resources, which I'm really passionate about. I mean, there's no doubt Auric has been built with a lot of agents and a lot of tech behind the scenes. It's fully personalized automation product. We track the oils going in, we track the usage, we know when the oils are running out, we know what preferences. We send oils to the home based on a full, pretty smart piece of tech that we've developed with the idea that we won't have as many people at the end of it.
Yeah.
The actual team that you see on that website, all fractional, a certain amount of hours per week, all shareholders and investors in Auric, and all very passionate about
Yeah.
well-being and mental health. And they all do many more hours than probably what the contract shows, but also in this efficient world where you just need really high-powered intellectual firepower. And then we basically have a bunch of agents and robots and workflows underneath the hood that sort of implement the process. So I don't know whether we'll have our own space where everyone all comes
Yeah.
together. We've only done it 1 or 2 times where we have everybody in one room, which is a really nice occasion. But just the way the company is built, it's a global company, and they're in various different spaces all over the world. But they do have an aromosphere.
I love what you're talking about because, like, again, it's new world. We're talking around environment, but yet we're also talking around fractional resources. Like, do you see that as more of the future of what businesses will look like, Adam? I mean, obviously, there's a mix, right? There's fully remote, there's hybrid, and there's still Monday to Friday.
I think it is, and I think we're still trying to work through that at the moment. We still get remunerated on sort of a 40, 50-hour week, and that's what sort of people consider a salary and a wage, and that sort of adds up to a particular number per year based on a particular output. I think that's all kind of gone away a little bit now, that you probably don't need somebody for 40, 50 hours a week. What you probably need is somebody maybe for 10, 15, and then they have a whole heap of technology and support around them that amplifies that opportunity. So that person that works 10 hours, then they might have to have a couple of different clients or opportunities to work with. Yeah, I think that's just going to be the new world. I mean, I have children and stepchildren, and I wonder what the best employment that they should be looking to do. And
Yeah.
entrepreneurship seems to be where a lot of people are sort of leaning into at the moment. It's going to be a really difficult task at the moment to try to see how people make money and what is their worth. It's for us as a new business, fractional staff is just really the only model that really stacks up. We want people to have equity and ownership in the venture and in the project. They obviously need to be paid well for based on their skills. But just if I had to pay that caliber of team that you see on our website for 50 hours a week, 365 days a year, it wouldn't really stack up. So
That would make sense.
So all of them have various different projects. And even myself, I kind of work on a couple of other projects or advisory opportunities. So I just think that's where we're going to move to.
Yeah, great.
So yeah, it's going to be a challenging time though, as we adjust to that world.
It's almost like mood sense. It's like almost like mood that you're talking about, right? Like, the ability to be calm when there is, because we're in this nonlinear world. It's so
Yeah.
uncertain these days. And then that ability to be focused when we need to be focused on the project or whatever. Like, it is very interconnected with what you're doing, and having that ability to be able to times go with the flow. Do you know what I mean? Like I think it's fascinating, and I love having these discussions, and I love, you know, what you're doing. Tell me, what is next for Auric Essentials? Like, you've got some big plans in place. Obviously, you were in the US last year. Are you seeing more opportunity overseas? Like, what's next?
Yeah, we just closed out our pre-seed round, which was $1 million round, which was great, and we're opening a larger 2 million US round in April. So
Amazing.
where we are as a company now is that we're manufacturing the aromasphere. So we built tooling products for smart caps and the diffuser itself. They're all out of China, but we're actually assembling the product here in Australia, which will be our short-term sort of goal. But we're moving to our next 3,000 units to get out. So really, we're looking for people that want to have some free trials with the Auric Aromasphere. We're looking at corporate gifting strategies. And of course, we want to go direct to consumer and get some more content out. So it's been a real stealth project. We've actually been building those Aromasphere one at a time for some time. So the first lot of customers that are out there have got these real custom made ones, but now we're moving to full blown manufactured production line as they come off the conveyor belt. And so, yeah, we're building that kind of model where we've got a fulfillment house and we put the oils in and ship out the device. But yeah, we'll spend a bit more time in the US this year. My co-founder's off to South by Southwest in the next couple of weeks. We're doing some demonstrations there. We found Austin a real home. We've got one of our key US investors is there. We spent 4 months in Austin, which is a real hardware town. There's Waymos, there's robots everywhere.
I love it.
We're a little strange here in Australia as a startup.
Yeah.
Find us as an interesting kind of
Yeah.
woo-woo kind of business.
Say it's flow science, flow state is still quite very new here. So like, yeah, that we would.
It's not for every investor. Sometimes just having the hardware, people go, look, I only invest in software only. And you're sort of like, well, actually, majority of our business is software. We just have this low cost kind of piece of hardware that is part of our
Yeah,
protection of our moat.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all about just continuously, staying alive as a startup is obviously really important as well. But we've hit a lot of different milestones, and people like the product. So really, if you reach out to auric.au, send us a message, you can buy the product. We've got a bit of a wait list on our units going out now. If you order today, you're getting them in May. But we'll get that delivery window right down as we go through the year. So yeah, it's just all about finding spaces that Auric can play around in is really my big focus. Like,
Which takes me I like it. What it says to me is, and I encourage anyone on the in the audience to experiment with this and see what you notice. Like, it comes back to that self-awareness, that ability to be like, oh, I'm behaving, or I'm doing things differently because I've tapped into this. Sen, I think this is what we need to be more about as well, is that ability to experiment, explore, like the novel experience, like, be able to play with the different mood states. I got one final question for you. Startup, self-belief, you talked about self-worth, you talked about all of that before. How
mm,
do you do it day in and day out? Because there's some days where you're just like head in the sand going,
absolutely.
but
Yeah, look,
yeah.
yeah, it's look, I've invested in a number of startups over many, many years, some winners, some losers. I've been in all sorts of different structures. This is the hardest thing I've ever personally done, but I can see startup founders that have built things for 5, 10 years and then never do it again, maybe become an advisor to other people, because it's really punishing. You've got to have a very thick skin. You've got to do 100 presentations knowing that 95 of them is a thank you, but no thank you kind of situation. Yeah, there's been days when I've woken up and gone, why am I so passionate about digitizing scent and building scent intelligence? Like, surely I could have thought of something else to do. And there are other days that is just so rewarding, and you just have these moments of a real win. So how do I look after myself? I kind of have to stay on, you're building a health tech or a wellness play. You kind of have to be very big on that. So, yeah, I do yoga 3 times a week. I try to at least get a 10-minute meditation in a day, to try to get a bit longer. I mean, those sorts of things. If I wasn't doing that, I think I would be completely,
Going insane.
imploded on myself. I've been very like my co-founder is absolute. I don't think we've ever had a disagreement that has been anything but just a challenging around a creative concept. I mean, he's a really measured person and smart person that helps me through. My partner, my wife, obviously, is
I love it.
she's doing a startup, so we're doing two lots of
Oh my
startups in
gosh.
one household, which is pretty nuts. But yeah, you have to get your regulation
Sorted.
in order. And kind of just know when you're not quite right. That's a really important thing. And also being really good and forgiving to yourself when you've really worked really hard. Like if you've gone really hard all day, like just smell the roses, so to speak. Just
So
take
give
a bit
yourself
of
some
time
grace
out.
lately, like just give yourself some grace. I say it to
Give
myself,
yourself some
give
grace.
yourself some grace.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're only on this planet once, and you've got to kind of you're the youngest you've ever been right at this moment. So you've just got to kind of put it all in perspective. So, but yeah, look, I'm enjoying. I really feel that this is my life's work. So hopefully that will be the case. But I always knew it was going to be very challenging. But it probably is 10 times more challenging than you originally thought, and it's taken 10 times longer than you originally thought.
It always does. I believe in you. I believe in it. I love it. Like for all the studying I've done in flow state and flow science, it's a proven. It's just proven. It's backed by science. It's proven. It works. It's just getting it out there and the
It
awareness.
is. Yeah, well, we're at that stage where a lot of these boxes are now starting to go out to people and enjoying their aromaspheres. It's
Forward to sampling.
oh yeah, you're more than sampling, you're getting ones.
Yeah, no, I know. I look forward to it though. I'll be telling you how I go, and maybe we'll get you back on, and I can give you this is what happened in this environment, and a bit more of a,
I'm sure
as
we'll have a bee signature scent created or a particular blend that you want to tell the community about.
Adam, amazing conversation.
Thank you for
Can't.
having us.
Yeah, thank you so much, and it's so good to be reconnected. It's so funny how the universe just pulls us back into like here we are. Advertising, the advertising industry would like, they would thrive using this in their in different environments. And I know you're testing it out, so you probably will talk on various agencies. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
what we need. This is what we needed. And we're
you're gonna
yeah.
rust over there.
But we find out. So you've already mentioned go to the website
Yeah.
auric.au. Is there anywhere else that we can, if we want to reach out to you directly? Is it LinkedIn? Where do we go?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Adam Good at LinkedIn. You find me there. I've got my own little blog that's been going for God knows how many years at adamgood.net, which has usually just a bunch of consciousness of what's sort of happening. But yeah, reach out. We've got trials going for Auric spaces at the moment. So if you've got a really interesting space you want to try, that's get in contact. You get the aromasphere for sort of 3 weeks. We trial it. And then, of course, you keep it if you want it, or for a small $300, or you send it back. So we're really trialing lots of different product market fits for the product.
Love it.
With there's always somebody interesting going, "Have you thought of this space?" And you go, "Wow, I hadn't really thought of putting an aromasphere
Okay.
there.
It's
We'll give
cool.
it a crack." So
Yeah.
so reach out, and congrats to you, B. I think what you're doing is fantastic. I mean, you're one of the most incredible managing directors of an agency that I ever saw. You built an incredible team and did
Thank
incredible
you.
work. So whatever you're putting your mind to, you're going to be a genius at. So great to see the progress that you're making with what you're doing next.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you so much. Well, have a wonderful rest of the day and thank you. And I look forward to, seeing even more success with Auric Essentials. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.